So wealthy people who have properties, they really have no reason to complain. They have no reason to complain because those charges are not that much for them. You know, if you own a property for 60, 70 million and they're asking you for 50,000, 60,000 because you live in it, you and I very well know that we can all afford that. The problem then comes into the increased charges when you then have to supplement your income with additional rental income. If you're a property investor as well, you shouldn't be too happy, because if you invest 100 million in a property, you probably get 10 million rent or much less than 10 million rent. You're better off taking that money and buying government bonds and fixed deposit, where you are guaranteed X amount of money, 12, 13, 14% every year, without the stress of buying diesel, buying water borehole, or doing any of that. So if you are a wealthy homeowner and you're living in your home, don't be too upset about 0.076. If you are owner-occupied and you're just making ends meet, you should be upset about 0.256. If you are a businessman and you want to make sound business decisions, you should be upset about 0.76, because the opportunity cost means that your money should be somewhere else. You should be making more than 10% return on your money. And then for them to now come and tell you that your land use charge will constitute, on average, additional 5% of that rental income, it means you're even making much less. Now, the people who are really going to suffer. I own property, I'm a landlord. I also have interest in a restaurant. I have interest in agriculture. If I cannot get the land use charge from my rent, I am going to increase the price of my tomatoes. If I cannot get it from my tomatoes, I am going to increase the price of a plate of food in my restaurant. So at the end of the day, people who are net aggregators of wealth or money, i.e. money comes to you, you make money and you accumulate money. You look for people who are going to meet your shortfall or meet your expenses so that you can make. If a tax is not progressive, i.e. it's a flat rate tax, everybody pays 10%, everybody pays 2%, it's the poor people that suffer. It's the poor people that suffer because they have no disposable income. It's the poor people that suffer because the burden of taxation is more on them. Let me give you an example. The Lekki toll gate. I don't know how much the toll gate is, and I drive an SUV. All I know is I hand over 500 naira or 1,000 naira. Sometimes they give me change, sometimes they don't give me change. It is because the burden of that particular tax is meaningless when you reach a certain income level. But if you have 2 children, you have to get them to school, which means you have to cross the bridge, and you have no spare money, and you are even borrowing money to pay school fees. When they increase it to 300 naira, 350, 400 naira for you to cross, would you not feel it? Would you not feel it? When wealthy people in Nigeria go to nightclubs, they pay 2,000 naira for a bottle of beer, 3,000 naira for a bottle of beer. It's because they can. So when they give them the land use charge of 400K, 200K, 300K, we will pay it. But the person that cannot afford to pay premium for goods and services, how are they going to cope with a 300, 400, 500% increase? Let me give you the example of a pensioner that lives in Lekki. Pensioner lives in Lekki, bought the land in Lekki 15 years ago when it was nothing. They have never seen 60 million in cash in their life. They have never had a bank account of 60 million. They bought that land for 2 million in Lekki many years ago. They built it for another 3-4 million then. Total cost, they were maybe all in with C of O, they were all in for 10 million. They started collecting 1 million rent, 1.5, 2. Now they are collecting 6 million rent. They are not even collecting 6 million in these days. They are collecting about 4 million rent. When you, as Lagos State, you come up to somebody and you tell somebody in a 60 million naira house, you know, the example they used, if I can remember, was 20 million owner third-party rent, you pay 90,000. So at 60 million, you'd pay 90 times 3, which is about 270,000. So if you are collecting 4 million rent, that is much more than 0.76. That is over 5% of your rental income. If that is the only income you have and you are a pensioner, That means the Lagos state government overnight has just come, even though they're still collecting withholding tax on rental income gross of 10%, has just come overnight and added, in real terms, 5% burden on your income. It's the poor people that would suffer. I like the fact that he has used examples of America, he has used examples of England. I started doing property at the age of 19 in England. I sold my first property in England at 14 million pounds. Was my first introduction into real estate. After I was successful in England, I came to Nigeria to consolidate, and then I went to live in America where I worked in real estate as well. I worked for the top firms in real estate in the United States, and I was there for 8 years doing real estate. I was in England for 17 years doing real estate. Everybody knows that when you increase property taxes, a small few benefit, and that small few are the most wealthy of individuals. I'll give you an example. He keeps saying that if you own a property of 10 million, you're only paying 5,000, you're not paying that much. If I want to shed my risk as a rich person, does that not mean I should go and buy like 50 properties for 10 million and increase the rent on smaller rent holders? I know that my vacancy level or whatever, or my risk will never pass one individual property. Who suffers? Not me, the shrewd investor. It's the common man that suffers. I also have accountants that will come to me and will talk about other expenses, my depreciation, my interest charges, and who will help me creatively avoid tax. The common man cannot creatively avoid tax because he can't even afford an accountant. They were asked to increase the tax base. All they've done is come to put burden on me. I gave somebody an example of a building next to me in Ikoyi. They said they got a bill of 300,000 for their building. They said it was pretty low, but they didn't want to pay. And they said, but they have 2 security guys, which they pay 40,000 naira a year to. So each security guard gets 480,000. They said one of the options to them was to just sack one security guard and have only one person have the gate. Another person said we can have an electric gate and have no gate man at all. So those 2 people that were earning salaries, that were being paid by the wealthy guy, a total of 960,000 naira. He woke up one day, he saw that, wow, I have to pay 390. Okay, let me find where the gap is and let me cut costs. Let me be more efficient. He gets an electric gate and he fires 2 people. Is Lagos State going to pick up the slack of those 2 people? No, they're not. We are not doing policies that employ people. We're not doing policies that create employment. We're doing policies that tax the rich. And those policies, when you tax the rich turn to people and say, they're going to pay this money. When the fuel price went up, didn't everything else go up? Is a rice trader poor? No. But they increased the price of rice to meet the increase in costs, import costs. Same with fuel, same with every other thing. So, it's not just about me, it's about everybody else who is not fortunate enough to have disposable excess money. If you have no disposable income, it doesn't matter whether it's 1,000 or 5,000. It doesn't matter whether it's toll gate fee or land use charge. They are ruining your lives.